Hi, welcome to another TAILEATERS discussion. I'm Andrew,
I'm Lee.
and this is a video about use of psilocybin. And in this video, we talk about our personal experiences using psilocybin, some of the research behind psilocybin. We talk about how psilocybin brings kind of a unity experience, and also some of the cautions and other measures people might want to take to help them have a better psilocybin experience. So let's get to it.
Psilocybin, yeah. Tell me
Yeah,
about what you've been learning about with that. I haven't seen your article yet, so it
well,
sounds intense.
yeah. I mean, psilocybin. It's just been uh, a lot of the article that that I'm writing and will be up with this video is kind of the theme about it that I wanted to stick to is that my personal view is that psilocybin is a kind of a transformative. It offers a transformative medicine for humans, and especially with mental health and mental health. I feel it's something that goes far deeper than we think, because we kind of push mental health down through all kinds of addictions. So people who might think they don't have a mental health problem, it's like, well, start unraveling all the addictions you have to distract it and see, and let's see if you do. Let's see if you kind of have a depression as well, because that's the idea. And so psilocybin is where I come at it from. Is I came at it from the idea that it's a blueprint, because psilocybin has blue spores. It bruises blue. It has blue juice, and a blueprint is symbolically it's a outline for how to build something.
Mm.
And in this sense, psilocybin is absolutely a blueprint for the disconnection in, say, American society, which is getting wider and wider. Our divisions are growing deeper and deeper, politically, genders, every kind of division we can think of. It's just getting wider and wider. And psilocybin is a way of kind of unifying these divisions within people. You start to see that these divisions they're kind of illusions, that they're not real to begin with. We just make them up. Going to that Spirit Plant conference, I thought my kind of psilocybin experience was unique. That I felt I was somehow a little special in thinking, the psilocybin. I realized that psilocybin could actually do all these things for the world if only people knew about it.
Mm.
And pretty much everyone who takes psilocybin at a high dose or a sufficient dose to really kind of get your ego kind of popping in a different way. People almost always share the same views, so it's a very common experience, which kind of told me something interesting about that this is a message from some kind of fungi god or some fungi representation of of consciousness. That is, it's communicating this similar message to people, because at the Spirit Plant conference, Paul Stamets talked. I mean, he gave an incredible speech about. He basically said to everyone, "Get on the bus or get off the bus." And what he was referring to was this is absolutely a way to improve our broken society. A lot of the broken humans that exist in our world, disconnected from the whole spiritual side of our lives. So he said it's a way of doing that. But he just didn't give personal experiences. He pointed out a lot of research at the conference, and so I went further into some of that research with this article. A lot of it was touched on in the Stone Day article as well. But in essence, it has just profound implications on how we interact with each other socially. It improves pro-social behavior. It decreases violence. It decreases authoritarianism. It It increases people's desire to be out in nature and be connected with nature. Um, Causes humans to see that we're all interconnected in some sense, and if you want to call that interconnected through that collective unconscious or through consciousness that we all share, it makes complete sense. But it shows all these things. It also has profound effects on anxiety and depression and PTSD, and just it helps people come to terms with their own eventual demise, because a lot of what we're doing, and that's what I kind of thought about with the article. A lot of what we're doing out in this world is we're we're trying to prevent our own deaths.
Hmm.
We're trying to build something on this planet in our short lifespans that's going to stand the test of time beyond when we die. So a guy who goes out and tries to, hustle money through and become a wealthy banker or a rich movie star or an artist of some kind or president of the United States or a politician, all these people are trying to build their own legacy, and that legacy is an outgrowth of an ego. It's like it's the feeling that I am so important and I have to leave something behind. It also is why we have children.
Hmm.
It's a very similar reason. And psilocybin just knocks that away, because it shows you that we're not all important. We're only as important as each other. We're all of equal importance. Um, that there is something beyond us that we're all going to return to. So it gives a sense of ease in that regard of like, well, what does anything I do matter? Is there a reason to obsess over this crazy anxiety that we've all built? Of like, I've got to do. That's the attitude. It kind of disrupts that. So, uh, yeah.
Yeah, those great points, man. I mean, one thing that I've noticed, it's a what you said is like this unity thing that comes through the psychedelic experience. You and I have been talking about it a lot, where for some reason in these experiences, in religious experiences, you can see this theme of unity being played out. Generally, like religion kind of, besides like Buddhism's kind of like has the middle path and stuff, and Christianity has Jesus, but those are like the representations of unity, I think. But um, they kind of go off on their own tangents, like in control factors and stuff. But anyways,
Yeah.
the unity aspect of it seems to be something that humans are driven to have that experience, and the psychedelic experience is definitely like this unity type of experience where something inside of us, maybe left or right hemisphere, in consciousness, are coming into connection with each other, creating like a unity, a communication experience. But the afterwards, after this unity experience, that's where it seems like things can go wrong. Like, I mean, you and I were in the plant medicine conference, and like not immediately, but after a couple days, I realized I was in another church. Like I came from a Christian church, and I was really into Christianity and like hardcore. I judged everybody around me. I'm like, they're not real Christians or whatever. I'm a real Christian because I'm here to believe and stuff. But anyways, so I
Yeah.
really, it really came to my conscious awareness when I was in the Spirit Plant Medicine conference, because I immediately felt and I noticed the same themes that I had before that I left, and I was like, wow, this is just another circle jerk of like this idea that that everything's bad and that we can make it better, and this plant way and or fungi way, and that the Mother Earth is going to is the God now, not the Judo Christian God isn't the God, and
Yeah.
it's just another opposing force. So it's like this weird thing, and I think people tend to think that if they take mushrooms and psychedelics, that's how they have to be afterwards, because that's the community for some reason that is kind of built themselves to be the representation of these medicines. But really, like, the experience, the psychedelic experience, doesn't seem to be that. Especially with mushrooms, it's not a experience where it's one way or the other way. It's like building a bridge in between. So it's weird to me that a group of people would be so extreme one way or another after a psychedelic experience. And where did that come from, too?
Hmm. Yeah, it can and it can create it can create all kinds of extremes. I mean, psychedelics can they're not it's not necessarily it's just not a I mean I'm learning myself, and I feel pretty comfortable for myself that I can use certain psychedelics, and I know what to expect, and I can start to, if things get out of hand, I can back myself away from them. Um, I guess it's interesting you talk about extremes, because with psilocybin, that's definitely a result from psilocybin. Is so uh, when you take it, in a weird, the only best way I can describe it is it kind of shows you the story of your life, in a full movie. And Terrence McKenna was really he's speaking quite literally when he calls it the hero's journey dose. So the hero's journey is kind of the process of how we each choose to live our lives in this world in whatever direction. And when you take psilocybin, it helps someone make sense of their past and all the decisions we've made leading up to this very moment, and then it creates this vision, a personal vision for your future. This has been my experience frequently with it. It creates a personal vision for my future, which absolutely lines up with that past, and that personal vision it's unique. But in a sense, for me, where I came at using psilocybin was a long-standing issue with depression, and just the whole surrounding, mental health, and struggling with that. And I think with depression, the main thing it's showed as is just an inability to find my own meaningful vocation or purpose in this world, that's also the hero's journey. That's what the hero's journey is about. It's finding our own self meaning in this world. And I've always struggled with that, and I don't need to go into depth here of why, but it's just kind of it's like this destructive storyline that's been told over and over, and that's kind of what depression is for sometimes. And psilocybin says it stops that, because it says, well, here you go. Here's everything you did in the past, and maybe it seemed like it was meaningless or chaotic, or you jacked up, or you did something, messed up, or whatever. And then it shows you, but look at what you've done, and now there's other person in the future that you can absolutely get to. Like, I guess what I mean is, so for example, in one time it showed me. It gave me the idea, and it's just you get the idea from psilocybin by just being open and basically asking. I often would ask out loud, "What am I meant to find? What can I do?" And if someone wants to know what they want to do with their life, they can ask that. And so one time it showed me, well, you can be a psilocybin farmer. And another time it showed me, it's like, oh, you can try and write about symbols like Joseph Campbell, or you're kind of conducting psychoanalysis on yourself like Carl Jung. Or another one, it was like it showed me these other versions of myself as a hero. And where I went with that is, so this is where the extremes that you're talking about really come in, is because when someone has this story of themselves, they can get carried away with that story of the future. It's like, so I had a future of myself where I'm going to be a psilocybin farmer. And then where that can be taken is someone can now obsess over that new story that's been given them as kind of like a gift by the mushroom. And they can kind of obsess over it and try and control the direction of their life, or which I find is it's very unhealthy and destructive outcome. It's basically, it's a transformation of what is normally called the ego into this like super ego or spiritual ego idea, whereas I had this idea with psilocybin, and now I'm gonna go save other people. I'm gonna go be a helper. I'm gonna help others. Whereas it's like it's a new form of like egocentrism is really what it is. And
Yeah,
so
everybody wants to be Jesus after mushrooms,
yeah,
man.
exactly. That's the so a lot of that's the challenge of psilocybin is, I mean, it seems like you kind of have heard about this idea before that did you ever have an experience like that with yourself where it gave you this very helpful vision of your life
Oh
or
yeah, man, definitely. I mean,
Hmm.
I definitely resonate with the Jesus thing too, because I mean, I generally don't talk about it, but when I was in, I mean, I first took psychedelics when I was in the military, so I couldn't tell anybody about it. So I had this idea, this feeling. I was like, oh man, this is gonna save everyone, you know. And but at the same time, I was like, well, I can't tell anybody about this amazing thing that could help them because it's against the law. So even more so in the military. So I was like,
Yeah,
well, I just gotta hold this into myself. And over time, I realized, like maybe everyone doesn't need psychedelics like I think they do. Um, and also, like me telling everybody about my experience isn't really going to change their life. It may get them excited to try psychedelics or something like that, or to make changes in their lives, but really it's not my job to like change other people. It's their job to change them. So like, the Jesus complex that everyone gets, it's like it's a misunderstanding, I think. It's like you read a story and it made sense to you, and you really are excited about that because it worked for you, but it's not the story for the other person, it's your story. So like these experiences are very, and also another aspect is like if you tell the story to somebody else, then it's degrading the story that it's already in you, so like people that write books and stuff like this, I listened to Brandon Sanderson talk about where he has this perfect story in his mind and then he writes it down on paper and it's not as clear or as good. So like the story that we have of ourselves isn't going to be clear as well put when we tell other people this amazing experience that we have. It's not going to compute over. They have to have the experience. So like the Jesus, the Jesus that you and I want to be is the Jesus for ourselves
hmm
internally, not external, So
yeah,
we're the masters of our domain, not other people's. So I mean that's a hard lesson to learn because a lot of people, I listen to them online and talk to through Reddit and stuff like that, and they're like, oh, I found this profound thing out, and they want to share it with other people, and like, and we do that, through
yeah,
podcasts and everything, but really it's not, that's not the story to be told. Really, there is no story to tell. It's just I had this cool experience is good enough, It's like congratulations, dude, you had it, That's
yeah.
that's really where probably enough, and then we work on ourselves. But one interesting thing about psilocybin I've been learning recently, and you were talking about where you kind of ran through all your life experiences, and up to the point that you are today and what you could become. So I've been experimenting with smaller amounts of psilocybin and THC, and
Hmm.
and right before sleep too. So I'll take like 3 grams of mushrooms and then go to sleep. And generally I can't go to sleep. I'm kind of just laying there or whatever, but it's nice quiet time. And what I did find though is that psilocybin allows me to remember every every memory that I ever tried to remember. So like if I'm like, oh, I want to remember a time in my in childhood or something like that, I can remember it as first person view right away, almost instantaneously. Anything that I want to remember, it's like a true memory. So I'm like there, I'm remembering it, it's clear, and then it's like the next memory, like what do I want to what do I want to remember, and it'll come
Mm.
up. With um, uh, cannabis, oddly enough, it doesn't work that way. So like every time I was trying to remember like a time in my life with cannabis, it was like a weird creative abstract version of that memory, and usually like in third person too. So it was like total creativeness versus like, and I couldn't remember anything how it was. Even like a memory that I did remember, I try to remember it at least like as well as possible, and you're kind of tripping. So you're like, is that a real memory or am I just making this up or whatever at that
Yeah.
point? But, but it was totally every time completely abstract, like not a real memory, it didn't make any sense. And so it was interesting, um, but really what was profound is the psilocybin, the mushrooms. I could very clearly remember anything that happened to me in my life as long as I tried to remember it. Like what's
Mm.
clear, yeah, it's clear as day.
That's interesting because isn't most a lot of memory locked up in the left brain? By by uh,
Yeah, I
I'm
don't
not
remember.
sure.
I don't know.
I'm not sure,
Yeah,
but it's like something tells me that's like our access is somehow. I definitely I really wonder how psilocybin and cannabis really relate to the left and the right brains.
yeah,
I can certainly see cannabis. It absolutely brings out the right brain feminine, like creativity, emotion. It makes people much more aware of those parts of themselves. Um,
yeah. Absolutely, man. That would make sense. Because
yeah,
whenever I take psilocybin, it's very logical. It's very clear. There's no there's no confusion. It's like a voice telling me logical reasons why things in my life aren't working out and how to fix them. And it's like if you want to change, you do this, or here's an option to be the person you want to be. It's very easy. It's not crazy. It's like boom, 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 boom. Do this. Whereas cannabis, it's like, whoa, just like totally crazy, random, weird energy stuff going on. Nothing's
yeah,
clear. It's just chaos. I'm like, what the fuck? And so I mean,
yeah,
they may be psychedelics, but they're totally different. Even like peyote was totally different than either of the two for me. So, it's like I think people think that they're doing the same things, like psilocybin and peyote and LSD and all this and cannabis. They're like, oh, it's all doing the same thing. I don't know about that. I don't think
yeah,
so. But I think
yeah,
psilocybin's incredibly powerful for getting a clear message about life.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just hard to say because if it's that logical side, then it's like it really feels like it's more over here, which kind of makes sense because I mean, the message of Jesus, he's the unity between the Father and the Holy Spirit. And if like cannabis, if like a more feminine aspect of psychedelics is the Holy Spirit, and then the Father is that absolutely feels like the mushroom to me. Um, it's kind of almost bringing these two parts together
Hmm.
in some kind of way. But it's the mechanism of how that's I don't really understand. It's what I'm trying to kind of get at with myself is how are these two things in particular, because they're so accessible, how can they be used together as a tool for possibly recentering that rebuilding that bridge in the center
Hmm.
of, of unity. I'm just trying to it's very interesting, but I'm not sure yet. I don't know if you have any sense of that.
No, I haven't. I mean, I've never used them together. I know a lot of people have, but whenever I'm doing my experiments lately, it's been completely separate from each other. I
Mm.
definitely, I mean, I enjoy the energy aspect of cannabis a lot more, especially when I'm going to bed, um, because it feels like a massage through my body, but and psilocybin doesn't do that to me. So I mean, I'm learning new things about psilocybin too, even today, where it's like it's not so much energy, it's more of like a thought thing. It's like it's a lot more like dreaming than um, like a clear dream, though, like a lucid dream almost, than um, cannabis is. Cannabis is more like, I don't know. I don't know how to relate that. Yeah, I'm not sure, dude. I haven't got to experiment more.
Yeah, certainly it's just a process of experimentation, but they certainly seems like there's just feels like there's some kind of way of using all these medicines in a proper way uh, that can really lead to mental healing. It certainly seems like it's out there. It's just finding, if anyone else has that information, or just trying to find how that works for us ourselves.
Yeah.
Maybe it's subjective.
One weird thing, dude, on a side note, is like, um, because of cannabis, um, my perspective of energy and like where to put it in my body has definitely changed. So I used to try to push energy up into my like my head, if that even makes any sense. Because like all the Eastern yogi, or yeah, like Hindus and stuff, they're like third eye, chakra, third eye chakra, and you're like, okay, I want to get out of my body. So you're like kind of visually push this energy force into your head. Um, but with cannabis, because of that, like using it over and over again, I'm like, I want to push it into my stomach more for some reason. So I've been pushing it in my stomach. Well, now when I take mushrooms and stuff, I don't get it. I used to get a lot of visuals. Now I don't get visuals as much. So I don't get like trippy images or anything like that. But I get stomach issues. Like I start feeling like kind of too much energy in my stomach almost. And then it's all memory based. So it's like lessons and memory based, and like a voice versus like um, this intense visuals that I used to have, where it was just kind of craziness and seeing entities and stuff. Now it's like more of a lesson versus like a bunch of weird images. So it's changed over
Yeah,
time too, and I think there's something to that. It's like how you can use certain plants and fungi to actually like heal your body, uh, um, and use it to like transform your experience, kind of like what you're going with. Like what is the main driving force. I'm not so much interested in seeing stuff anymore too, so my approach has changed to be more of like a healed body versus that. So it kind of getting going that direction, I think. um, Cannabis has definitely been interesting recently for me because I've been using it more as like a healing tool, and as well, and like scanning my body for like issues with this energy force. It's crazy to even like, I mean, I really feel it. So it's like I can almost massage certain areas of my body and like push. It feels like pushing stuff through it, so it's no longer an issue. It's weird, man. I don't know.
do you
Got to
feel any
explore.
different after kind of that movement to the stomach with psilocybin? Have you felt any different since that experience
Definitely,
in
man.
general?
Yeah, but I mean, like, cannabis seems to be really a lot better for that, and like the energy stuff. Um, but the psilocybin is definitely better for memory and like going through memory. Like whatever is happening in my stomach, it's allowing me to like really step out and kind of look at my memories of like childhood and everything, like clear as day, man. It's crazy stuff. It's like remembering a dream after you wake up, and you're like, you forget about it, and then later on the day you may like it may be triggered, or you start going to sleep again, and the dream may pop up again. It's like that, but it's like with every memory I've ever had, where it's like boom, it just appears, and I'm like, oh, I totally forgot about that, or boom.
Oh,
It's weird, man. It's like all of it firing, again, and it used to. It's all in there still. It's just
yeah.
dormant, kind of. It's weird, man.
Yeah, it makes sense that it's in the stomach too. It's like I've heard that it's a common experience to unlock all these kind of lost memories when people undergo heavy fasting.
Oh, I didn't think of that. Yeah,
So Richard had said that.
maybe
It's,
something
it's
stored in
a
the stomach.
yeah. I mean, yeah, maybe there's and it's because of that. That's I really my honest sense is that the mushroom is really it's some kind of unity. It really that's how it really feels because it shuts down the default mode network. It kind of puts you at a kind of I feel like it just puts someone at kind of a blank slate place that they can now build from. And that also and a lot of people don't take his books too seriously, but I get a lot from Carlos Castaneda's books where he's being taught a lot through the psilocybin mushroom, and it's described as taking these medicines as it allows the point at which this centering mechanism, which we call the ego, wherever the ego is centered, it allows that to be adjusted. I mean, it
Mm,
calls it the assemblage point, but it's like it really feels like some of these intense psychedelics like mescaline and psilocybin that he was using there as for example it is your way to kind of try and put that closer to the center near that bridge. That's how
interesting.
I visualize it at least. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if you could use it to center it, like as if you could remember during the experience to like be more visually centered. If that actually would outcome as like a more centered experience when you wake up or you come out of it. So it's like more locked in that area. I don't know. Interesting
Yeah.
ideas, man.
Yeah. No, dude. Yeah. Well, do you have any, I mean, do you have any those, I wrote a little bit about maybe some precautions that people might
Mm.
want to take, but maybe be able to get your view on that as well because you have a good amount of experience with psilocybin, but also other psychedelics that maybe some other precautions that people that are interested just to keep in mind when
It's a good idea,
they
man.
under yeah
Yeah, I mean, just being willing to take a break, is good too. I think the most I've learned from psychedelics is not using them. Actually, it's like integrating those ideas through long periods of time where I can kind of reflect on them. Generally, like for me, I don't feel a desire to take them anymore once I've kind of learned enough to start going through it and weeding through those ideas to actually integrate them into my life. That's a huge thing, and don't take it too seriously. Like if you get an idea, I hate to say it, but everyone thinks they're Jesus. Usually, not everyone, but most people think they're going to be the next Messiah once they take a high dose of mushrooms. So if you can prepare yourself for that a little bit, then you're like, okay, this is what everyone's doing, so I don't need to do that. Um, and then like um, try to. I don't believe in set and setting. To be honest with you, either. Like I've had some really horrific places that I've done psychedelics, and I've talked to some people that have taken them in some pretty bad spots too, and they came out fine. But it's really like your own mentality of the situation. If you don't feel safe or you don't feel comfortable at some place, then that's what's going to cause the problem, not if the place is safe or uncomfortable, like for other people. It's really what you desire, what you think is safe and comfortable in your mind is going to be okay. And um, the bad trips or whatever people have, those experiences should be also taken with a grain of salt. Usually there's something in there and there's a reason you're going down a bad way or whatever. Um, and you just kind of got to pay attention to that and understand that you're just having an experience. It's like your brain's playing with you, and there's a reason why it's playing these images or ideas out. You don't have to take them seriously, but you can see why they're being played out. Like I have weird thoughts on psychedelics, um, but I don't take them seriously, and and you can kind of direct yourself out of there as long as you are able to see where you're going and then kind of change the message. You're like, well, let's not go down there today. Maybe we can spend our time doing something else that's more beneficial to us than like some weird tangent, you know? So, um, it's hard to do in a psychedelic setting because you're tripping, but if you can remember what your goal is, if you have an intention when going in, you can guide yourself back to that intention and then move forward versus like going down a rabbit hole that's not going to do anything that you kind of were trying to get done with the experience.
It's interesting. You're talking about mindset. It's like almost you with psilocybin. You realize that we all absolutely 100% shape our own reality. Our own subjective view of reality is shaped by us. And if and that's kind of a hokey idea. It's kind of a sometimes people think it's a hokey new age idea. But if you take psilocybin and you go out around other people, which is I've done, and I'm not sure I would recommend it. It can be very unnerving. Um, it's like one time I noticed it's like you just notice how like simple choice of choosing to smile or not to smile absolutely affects others around you. It's like other people light up as we smile genuinely, and then if we're going around with an angry look, the people we look at generally tend to look angrier and it's all a lot of it's reflective of because we're all viewing our own subjective views of reality. So psilocybin, I don't know, it just puts that in another. So it's like knowing that you can change your view of reality with psilocybin, especially if you're going down a bad train, uh, by
Yeah.
by just say, I mean, it's like what you've told me before. I think it's just repeating over and over some positive affirmation to yourself of, or just some, you know, I started to think about like maybe Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. It's like you just repeat, there's no place like home, there's no place like home, there's no place like home. Like maybe, you know, the Wizard of Oz, it makes a lot of sense when you take mushrooms as well.
Yeah.
Like a lot of your journey to do. So,
Oh yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
I mean that totally makes sense, man. Like I mean Richard is telling me that uh you kind of he always would smile if it was going in a bad way. And you don't feel like smiling, but so you just kind of fake the smile, and after about 20 maybe 20 seconds or so, suddenly things just turn into really good, and you're like,
Yeah.
whoa, like how did that happen? Because you can actually see the change happening. It's like a delayed response, and then and then you kind of forget about it, but like while you're in it you're like, oh, things are great, and you continue on, but like and then you come back to a bad spot and you're like, oh, I gotta smile again, and then you start smiling, and then suddenly 20 seconds later, so boom, now you're happy again.
Yeah,
It's
dude.
like a weird, it's like and like you're talking about taking it and then you see like other people change with your smile. It's an interesting idea to think that maybe people are actually changing. Maybe it's just your perception of how people are changing is what's
Right, right,
making them change. So like
exactly.
I don't like honestly, I don't think a lot of people understand basic psychology of like human how the human mind works. And so they think that like what they're experiencing is real time real their experience is real. Like people generally I think really believe that. So like what they don't understand is like everything that you ever experience is simulated inside your brain before you even experience it. So it's already has like your unconscious bias, which is absolutely uncontrollable, and your unconscious memories and all these different things applied to your version of reality, and then it comes in the conscious view of what reality is. So like your experience of your subjective, which means your personal view of reality, is completely different than anybody else's, and there's no way for you to prove that your experience is the same as somebody else's. It's not possibly you can't prove that. But like so when you take psychedelics, your version of reality is being changed absolutely to the point of complete reality shift, because everything in your brain is being that simulates reality in the first place is being transformed. So I think people tend to think that they view the psychedelic experiences as you leaving your body and going out to some other area, and that's the world you're experiencing. And that's great and all, but you don't have to do that in order to have a life-changing experience. It could very well just be all inside you, which is like astronomically massive in itself. It's beyond massive, to the point where your version of reality of what you're actually experiencing is totally changed and shifted and becomes something completely different than you've ever experienced before. That is fully possible, just as possible of going out. So I don't know if that made any
Yeah.
sense, but
Yeah, it makes complete sense. It's like a tool for, and if you it's like consciously will your reality, your perception to improve, change your perspective while you're on it, then your perception of what's going on around you will get better, like you said. I mean, and maybe as a tool for mental health and growth and personal growth, it's that I can see that being so helpful for people who have maybe jaded or negative views.